Good morning, everyone. Chris Durrell here, looking to talk some DFS NASCAR. First things first, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Happy Father's Day to my dad. I don't know if he's watching. He's been spraying late and up very early, finally getting the day off. I think he's still in bed, but either way, if he watches the replay, happy Father's Day. Got about 11 people in here so far. Just going to share the link in a couple spots, and then just waiting for Dane as well. I think he's going to join me here eventually. We've got a very exciting race. I don't know if you guys have been watching anything from this Nashville weekend so far. Finally back in Nashville. I think it's the first time since the Xfinity Series was here in 2011, I believe it was. They had two races a year here in the Xfinity Series. At that point, so 10 years later, they returned. The Xfinity race yesterday was awesome. I mean, even if you're not a Kyle Busch fan, he ended up winning the race, led 122 laps. So he did dominate, but there was some awesome racing. If that carries over into today, we are definitely due for a very good race here today. So let's hope for that. But we're going to talk some DFS here. If you got any questions along the way, fire them away into chat. I will get to them all. I will scroll through them all. If I miss your question, definitely hit me up after, either in the Roto Pros chat. That is going to be going for another 10 days as we transition over to Patreon. Patreon Slack as well. I will be in there leading up to lock, dfsr.com. I'm in that chat as well. And then as of yesterday, we now have a Discord going. I didn't exactly mean to get it going yesterday. I was working on setting it up and running some tests, make sure everything was going to work fine. And boom, all of a sudden about 100 people filed in because I clicked on an update in the Patreon background. So Discord's up and running. If you want to get into the Discord and you're already a Patreon member, but you haven't been added to the Discord yet, all you have to do is go into your Patreon settings, look at the apps, and you'll see a little spot that says Discord. Chase that Elliott. There he is. Happy Sunday, buddy. But yeah, go to app, go to where it says Discord and click connect. So if you've already got a Discord account, you'll be good to go. You'll just ask for your login and then you'll connect your Patreon and Discord. You will be auto added into the Discord. If you don't have a Discord, go to discord.com, set up an account, and then go do the steps in Patreon to the apps to where it says Discord, click connect, enter that username and password, and then boom, you will be in Discord. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the Slack chat open for another month till August, just to help anyone kind of move over to the Discord. Discord is just so much nicer from my end of things, managing it, as well as things that we're going to be able to provide you guys as members with our new coaches. So if anyone else is tuning in and hasn't really heard the news, Roto Pros is shut down. But the good news with that is that I was able to bring over Dane, Kenny, and Ryan, which was our core team over there. There was the four of us. So now the four of us are going to be working with Patreon, providing even more content than we have. You've probably seen MMA picks from Kenny in the past on the sheets. He just hasn't been in chat. He is in there now. Yeah, thanks. Got my Father's Day gift here. Told everyone in chat I was going to wear. I got it this morning. Another baseballism edition. I've got a little bit of a baseballism addiction. As you can see, each and every week, I've got about 5 or 6 shirts now. I've also got all these got this Father's Day card. Dad, I love you because. A nice little picture on the back. And happy Father's Day poster. This is a good one. Very colorful. So happy Father's Day to all you guys out there. Awesome race here. Waiting for the first time Father's Day, man. Dane. So we're going to get to that. Going to go through a couple things in chat here. Yeah, if you do have any questions about the Discord or switching over, definitely hit me up in any of those chats that I talked about, or on Twitter at Jager_bombs9. You can DM me over there as well. So the prices, you can lock in the current prices. Right now, it's $5 for one sport, $10 for all sports. Right now, you can lock those prices in for a complete year just by signing up for a yearly. You'll also get a 16% discount. So instead of paying $120 for a full year of all sports package, you'll get it for about, I think it comes out to $100.80. So you can get that until July 1st. And then after that, the prices are going up. So definitely lock that in. If you got any questions, again, hit me up. And as I say that, I am going to add Dane. Boom. Happy Father's Day, buddy. How's it going?
What's up? It's going good so far. How's yours?
It's going pretty good. I got some gifts. I was up super early. It's beautiful outside. I've had about 4 cups of coffee. I'm good to go. Jacked
Yeah,
up for.
sounds like it.
Did you get to watch any of the race yesterday or the truck race?
I watched the truck race, didn't get to watch yesterday, and then watched some qualifying this morning. So
Well, that's good because I watched the Xfinity and didn't get to watch the truck. So between the two of us, we've seen absolutely everything NASCAR this weekend. I also got to see some practice too. Looks like it's going to be exciting. The first thing I noticed, first thing I wanted to bring up was that although it's almost a mile and a half track, it does not race like a mile and a half racetrack. It's it's hard to compare tracks honestly, but Phoenix is one that really stands out to me just for the flat and fairly short. Phoenix is a mile, so this is 1.33 miles. But that would be my closest comp. But these guys are not, pedal to the floor. They're using brakes. It's slippery. We even seen that in qualifying this morning. Truex sliding. Super chalk announcement right there. He's starting way back in the field. But what's your overall assessment of the track so far?
yeah, I think you're exactly right. It's a very, very interesting track, and we're going to have a lot of the way qualifying ended up. It's going to be interesting to see. I think going into turn one is going to be something that the guys out front have to really looks like get used to. I think.
Yep.
I didn't watch practice, so I didn't see it there, but I've seen a lot of guys have trouble getting in and kind of riding up the racetrack and qualifying for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting strategies for sure. I'm pretty sure they're going to want 4 tires every time they're coming down pit lane there as well. So, a couple things to look back on, and actually, I was going to look back on was Xfinity results like 2011, 2010. I know Logano and Kyle Busch have a lot of experience on this track, but I just heard after qualifying they talked to Kyle, who qualified second for today's race. He was talking about coming here years ago and how it's a lot more racy now than it used to be. Like back in the day, it was very, very geared towards where you started, track position. You'd see a very high correlation to starting position to finishing position, very tough to pass. He feels it's a lot more racy this time. I'm hearing conflicting things because I also heard Ricky Stenhouse Jr. talking about how it is tough to pass. Um, but honestly, if we're talking about top drivers, I don't think like Truex is going to have a problem at least getting up inside the top 10. Um, but are you looking more towards a dominator type track position race here, or are you looking at? I know Truex is definitely going to be place differential, but is that something that you're definitely looking at today?
Yeah, I think it is going to be more of a track position race. I think we've seen it in the truck race. We've seen guys stay out front that stayed pretty close. I can't remember who was it who started on the pole during the trucks, and he kind of led the whole first stage. Kraus, I believe,
Yeah.
led that whole first stage. So I do believe, even though he wasn't the fastest truck, I don't think in the race as a whole he was able to get out front and get ahead. So I think I'm going to be targeting 2 to 3 dominators again. But like you said, there are some place differential plays from guys who are in good equipment for like Truex.
Yeah, the Xfinity race was similar as well. I mean, Cindric on lap 1 got ahead of Kyle Busch, who was on the pole for the Xfinity race yesterday. And as soon as he did that, he obviously had the better setup going into the start of the race because he led that whole first stage. But then Kyle quickly got ahead of him the start of stage 2, whatever adjustments he made at the end of stage 1. And he was able to hold that lead on all those restarts for the rest of the race. So track position is definitely going to be huge. Like I said, I don't think the top drivers are going to have an issue getting through some of the weaker drivers and getting towards the front. But once you get among all those top cars, inside the top 10, it's going to be very difficult to move from, say, 10th to first or even 10th to top 3, top 4 spots. So I think we do see possibly some strategies, maybe early pitting, stuff like that. And with the fuel run, which I think is 61 to 71 laps somewhere in there, that makes it, if we do go green, there's going to be a green flag pit stop in every single stage. So that's going to be exciting as well. There's a lot going on here today. So, yeah, Andrew just mentioned here in chat, Hendrick Motorsports on fire. No doubt. It's absolutely amazing. It's crazy how far they've come. Just a few years ago when they were really struggling and when they first came out with the new car, they really struggled with that design, but they seem to have it under control now, led by Kyle Larson, who's just leading the world. So, I'm just finishing up a couple updates on the matrix here now that qualifying is over, and I am going to share the screen here. Do you, who's your, I guess, obviously Martin Truex Jr., would you say in GPP is probably going to be 50%, 60% owned?
Yeah, I think so. The only thing that might keep his ownership a little down would be the fact that there's other guys around him. Like all the people are going to start playing these Hendrick cars for Dominators more and more.
Yep.
So I think people might pair those together. And there's some of the more popular drivers too. Anyway, Chase Elliott and Larson and Byron are all pretty popular guys, I would say. So 10-4, I mean, what are you doing with Larson at priced way above everybody, starting fifth?
TPP. I kind of made the stand against him last week, and that really hurt. Obviously if it goes the other way, but he absolutely dominated. He's just been too good lately to really ignore. And from that fifth spot, I mean, where was he in practice here? I'm just going to slide over. I'm just going to share the screen now that I've got it ready.
Couple.
And I'll just slide that over. Yeah, he was second in practice and first in 10-lap average. So, I mean, there's no way we can avoid him. I don't have if you're watching the sheet here, this sheet is a copy that I made. I'm going to transfer my picks over once the video is over or as the video is going here. So keep in mind for members only that I will have my top picks out here once the video is over. But yeah, going back to Larson, the price is crazy, seeing that he's 1,100 more than Elliott the next. I think that's possibly going to make him a little bit lower owned, but is it really though? Him starting fifth and that fast in practice, and he kind of followed it up with a good qualifying. So I wouldn't count him out getting up front even in that first stage. Maybe not the first stage because starting fifth, but going into that second stage or possibly into the first caution if that happens today. Honestly, I think Larson can definitely get out front and lead some laps. So he would be one of my top 3 dominators, I think.
I guess my problem is kind of looking at Truex and Larson. I mean, I really like Larson. I think he might be my top dominator overall. But the problem I'm having is it's so hard to build a team with him as the dominator and then Truex with the place differential. There's not any guys like, let's see, Priest is starting 20th. Alfredo starting 18th. All those guys that are right around 6K are kind of starting right where we need them to finish. So
yeah,
I guess we need to look at the matrix and see if they do finish right around there. Will that be enough value for us to pay up for both of those guys? The other route you could go is kind of not play Truex and play Kyle with another guy up here like a Kyle Busch or a Byron or whoever you think would be the second dominator, and then kind of hope Truex has problems or something. I mean, if he runs like he has been for the last few weeks and he finishes 15th to 20th, I don't know that that's enough with some of these.
That's not even 5X.
Yeah.
For 5X, the 13th. So
he's been running really bad. I mean, I hate that. I was going to fade him, honestly. And then, of course, he runs up the racetrack and starts 35th. So if he was starting, I mean, anywhere else, if he was starting 20th, I don't even know if I would have played him. So I don't even know if I would have considered him with the way that he's been running. But I don't know. I mean, Kyle looked pretty good in qualifying there. He was second. So. But Denny wasn't that great either, 13th. So I don't know what the deal is with that team. They weren't very good in practice, I don't believe either. So,
yep. Personally, I like the fade Truex here. I don't think it's. I mean, he's definitely a top driver, but like you said, the form is down recently. He had trouble in practice. I just wanted to look at. I've also got up the short flat results. That's something I've been looking at. So he is pretty high on there, 3 wins, fifth, first. And that Phoenix really, I mean, Martinsville I don't really look at, but Richmond and Phoenix, the short flats I definitely like. And he's got top 5s, a win there, 10th at Phoenix before that. So, I mean, he's got pretty good run there. But like you said, the way he's running, how high owned he's going to be, and that he needs at least a 13th place finish to just hit 5X when you can get Larson, let's just say, probably not out of the realm. Do you expect 100 laps out of Larson? Let's just say even 25 fast laps. that puts him kind of in the range of like 7 to 8x. Larson, even let's just say 50 laps led and 20 fast laps, that has him at 6x winning the race. So I think with the way Hendrick has been going lately, I do like the Truex fade, being that he's probably going to be high owned because of that place differential. I do like going another way in my, because I'm only doing probably 3 lineups, a single entry and then a 3 max. So if I was doing 20 max, I definitely have Truex in there. I'd probably still be underweight in a 20 max. But being that I'm really narrowing it down to 3 lineups this week, Truex is going to probably be 100% fade for me just because of the way the Hendrick cars are going and their potential dominator factor. And then I also like the price with Kyle Busch and especially Joey Logano. Both of them have been amazing on short flats. Show Logano here, 8 top 5s in 9 short flat races is 2 more than anyone else has. Richmond, Phoenix, he's finished top 3 in his last 3 races on those 2 tracks that I find very comparable to this as well. So I do like Logano, and something I wanted to mention with those 2 guys, because if we just go look at their practice numbers, they were 17th and 21st. Well, what they did, and Kyle mentioned this in his interview as well, is after practice, they did a complete, like, totally changed the setup of the car. So he kind of said, which this takes down some dominator potential for him, is he kind of did mention after saying that they changed it for qualifying, is that they don't really know what's going to happen at the start of the race. So that's one thing to pay attention to that kind of makes me down a little bit in terms of early dominator for Kyle, which would really put, do you think Almirola can lead some laps early, or do you think that this is a tough decision here at kind of that front row?
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough to decide who we think leads early. I would still lean Kyle Busch, honestly, out of the front row. I do think Byron will challenge them in a lap or two, and you like Logano. So, I mean, it's really a toss-up between those 4 to lead early on. But I obviously think it's one of those 4 leading for a lot of the race early. Honestly, I would probably lean William Byron. I just
that's hilarious.
Kind of like those the Hendrick cars. I don't see how we can really go away from them. He and Larson, I think, can get up there 1-2 and pass these guys, honestly. So that's kind of going to be my favorite pairing, I believe, today is Larson with Byron.
I love it because, as you just said, that I just put Byron in for 80 and Larson in for 100. Those are my top 2 dominators so far. I haven't really figured out the third, but Byron's just been showing so much speed. He's been so consistent this season. He was fastest in first practice. The 10-lap average was down a little bit, but I think he has the speed, qualified 4th. So I like that short run speed at least to get out front. If we see a caution, I think he can stay there. If it turns into a really long run, I think someone else will eventually get there. But I think he can get out and lead some early, and he's got a strong car. If he doesn't even lead, I got him for 80. And if he does that, he's going to just absolutely crush his value. But I just want to kind of take it off here. And he needs to, if he doesn't lead any laps, he needs a win for just 5x. And let's just say he only leads 40 laps, 10 fast laps. That puts him over 6x just with 40 laps led. And I think that's totally doable with the speed that he's shown as well. So I definitely like Byron there at 9,700. Kyle Busch. I'm kind of off Hamlin and Truex, to be honest with you. Elliott, I think, might be a little bit lower owned just because if people are going with Larson, who I think is going to be higher owned, you're not going to be able to pair him with Elliott very comfortably because, like you said, these lower end guys aren't as good. So if you're going with Larson, Byron is probably Larson and Byron is probably going to be a fairly chalky start. And I think you can maybe go away with it elsewhere. So I've got a couple questions here before we move on. Thoughts on Kurt Busch? He was in my notes this week. 3 Cup drivers that actually did a tire test here, and that was Kurt Busch, Bell, and Briscoe. So is there any of those 3 that you think maybe that gives them an advantage in terms of practice? I'm just going to bring up their practice here to see if you think there's any, see your thoughts on that. Kurt was 6th in first practice.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're great plays in the mid-range with how they ran in qualifying.
Yeah, Kurt starting 30th is going to be chalk, 8,300.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be. I really want to play those guys in the mid range. There's really 4 of them there. That Reddick, Bale, Kurt, and Austin Dillon are all great place differential plays. So I guess the question becomes, and I've not played with builds enough, can we play 2 of them or one of them? I'm sorry, with 2 dominators, and I think you can. But I really think it's going to have to end up being that we're okay playing some of these cheap guys that are probably their upside is finishing where they start.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you. We're maybe looking for, if we're going to get those 2 dominators are obviously going to, put up 7 to 8, maybe even 9x possibly. So we're only going to need maybe 4x from those lower guys today. We're not really looking, just because of the way the qualifying worked out, we're not really going to be able to grab that 5-6x unless something crazy happens in that respect. So I 100% agree with you there. So definitely Kurt Busch is going to be a popular play here. Another one, I wanted to go down to these other guys that did the tire test, Bell and Briscoe. Briscoe was 11th in practice 1, didn't run a 10-lap average, but then qualified 16th. So that was good to see, and he's 6,200. So we are looking for 31 for 5x. So that's a 14th place finish. So I think he does have 5x upside for sure in that car at the 14th place finish. Hell, I think he's even capable of an 11th, and an 11th is going to give him 6x. So Briscoe is definitely up there as one of my top value plays down here.
Yeah.
Ryan starting 29th is going to take on some ownership there. He was 9th in opening practice, so he's going to be chalky. I think I like going Briscoe. If I'm playing the contrarian pivot off the heavy chalk today, which I do think there is some, I like pivoting. If there's ever a track where I'd like to pivot off of place differential chalk, this would be the track, just because of the way we've seen it race so far. Slippery. Truex hasn't been running great, so that's another reason for him. But Newman down here at 6,800, I just like Briscoe a little bit better. The similar practice results. Briscoe's got the tire test with him, and then going and looking at Bell, he's starting 25th. Probably out of those 3 drivers that did the tire test, he would be lowest on my list. He's probably going to be lowest owned too, because he didn't show practice speed, and he's more expensive than those other 2 as well.
Yeah, that team overall just kind of worries me a little bit. JGR, I'm not really sure what their deal is. I mean, Kyle had like I said, a good qualifying lap, but none of them were that great in practice. I think one of the other value plays that I'm interested in, and I want to see what your thoughts on it are, was Ricky Stenhouse. And I know he's starting 14th, but he's shown a lot of speed this weekend, and he even slid up the track a little bit in qualifying and still qualified 14th. So I think he's got a really good car, and he's 7,200, so he fits quite a few different builds. Yes.
So that was awesome that he still was able to qualify 14th there. That just shows you how much speed he had, that legit speed, 4th in opening practice. And then he even showed that long run speed. He was 7th out of, I think there was 20 cars that ran a 10-lap average, and he was 7th out of those. So very positive there, and only 7,200. So we'll go over and look at the matrix quickly. So for 5x, we need 36 points. We're only looking for outside the top 10, so about an 11th or 12th for that 5x. I would even take a 4x from him at that $7,200 price tag. So then we're looking at like 14th, 15th. I think he can get some fast laps that can maybe boost that a spot or 2 for us. And then just going and looking at the short flats here, especially like 17th at Richmond, 12th at Phoenix. Had trouble at the Phoenix 2, the playoff race last year. So not great, but if we're looking for him to give us that 4 to 5x, I think that's a pretty safe one, and I think he's going to be lower owned, to be honest with you. And an 8th place finish puts him up in that 6x range, which is awesome from this price range itself. And if he's going to be lower owned than say Newman, Briscoe, and then going up to Kurt Busch, kind of sandwiched in between those guys, I think we do see some lower ownership there, and there definitely is 6x upside with Ricky. So I like it.
Yeah, I think I just landed on my single entry build, and it does involve him for sure. And we've already mentioned, I think, all of the plays that it landed on. So I really like it. And like you said, I think he is going to be a little starting spot after he ran up the racetrack and still was able to finish or start 14th. I think that is really good to see that he didn't start like 25th, because people would have been all over him if he was 10 spots back. But now that he's starting top 15, I think that will keep his ownership in a little bit lower, and allow us to play him at a little lower ownership. And I think he's got top 10 upside.
Yep. So Franchise Field asks, oh, that's Harvick. Sorry, that was the wrong question. Who was the fastest practice 10 laps? It was Kyle Larson. He was number one, followed by Chastain was number two. Number three in 10 lap averages was Harvick. Four was Reddick, and five was Chase Elliott. So, yeah, Kyle Larson showed a ton of speed there. So he was definitely fastest. I'm going down. Bowman won on concrete track last time at Dover. That's true. I did look at Dover a little bit for that concrete correlation, but just with how steep Dover is, I really just kind of took Dover out of my research a little bit, just because of that. So I do like Bowman. I also had someone mention, Mike wanted to know some FanDuel plays. So yeah, looking at FanDuel, I look a little bit less at place differential, and I'm already doing that because of this race. So finishing position is going to be huge. I think you could make a really good balanced lineup on FanDuel today with William Byron being 11.5. Alex Bowman is only 9,500. He is, that would be, give me just a second here. That is 11th most expensive driver is Alex Bowman starting 8th. I think he's got top 5 upside. So I think you can go with that Hendrick stack of Byron, Bowman, and even reach up to Kyle Larson at 14,000, because there is so much value. I think you could grab a Briscoe at 5K and really make that work. So the builds are always a little bit easier, I find, on FanDuel, just because they're value. You fit in one value play and you can easily go with 4 like top tier drivers if you grab the right value in these situations. And Briscoe starting 16th at 5K. I think he's kind of a, like we talked about, 12th to 15th place driver at the end of the day for his upside. I think he could even reach inside the top 10 possibly. And I think that gives him huge upside, especially on FanDuel at 5K. And it allows you to, like I said, spend up. And my favorite stacks would be Hendrick. If you can't get up to Larson, what I would probably do on FanDuel actually is either go Larson Bowman or Larson Byron. If you're doing multi-entries, I'd probably just be mixing in those three. Chase Elliott's going to be lower owned, obviously, I believe. Not as much as DraftKings, because of the price differential is pretty huge on DraftKings versus FanDuel. But that's kind of the way I'm looking at FanDuel. And then just those value plays, like I talked about, Briscoe at 5K, you can't ignore. I think that's going to be a great pivot off of Ryan Newman again, because Newman's only 5,300 and starting 29th. He's going to be super high owned as well. So that pivot to Briscoe, I like, gets you away from that chalk, which may fall with Larson Bowman if you're going that build. The Briscoe pivot off of Newman, or even Stenhouse, like Dane mentioned, he's 6,600. So he's going to be really low owned on FanDuel. I think that's a good way to go too if you're looking to play some GPP lineups today.
Yeah, so Eric Jones he slapped the wall in qualifying. I've seen him, and they were pretty sure he was going to have to work on it. So he is going to the rear, and he's qualified ninth. So he slapped the wall and still qualified ninth. So he showed a little bit of speed. Oh gosh, come on.
Uh-oh.
Will Byron going to the rear. So that's great.
The news is just dropping as we do this. All right, so I'm going to go share that.
Lovely. Hate to see that one, actually. But anyway, finish my thought on Eric Jones. He's, I think, almost completely out of play for me. Going to the back, starting ninth, even though that's pretty impressive that he showed ninth place in qualifying speed by slapping the wall out of turn 4. But I think I'm going to be completely off of him with some of those other guys down there. And yeah, now let's move on to the Byron thoughts. I think that might just up Larson even more for me.
Yep. And that sucks for the builds. I really did like Byron there, pairing him with Larson. But it's going to be tough for him. I think he's not going to get the Dominator points now for sure. I think it's going to take all of probably the first stage and part of the second stage to even get back up if he wants to sniff the top 5 to 10. maybe early or late first stage, early second stage, he could, depending on what happens in the pits and cautions and what have you. But I think he could scrape, get close to that top 10 again. But getting up into that top 5, it's going to be hard on tires for him working his way through the field. So once he gets up there inside that top 10, like I said, that's when it gets tough to pass cars. So almost taking my exposure down to 0 on Byron at this point. I'm going to have to think about that here for a minute. How about yourself? Are you going to be full fade on him and just more on Larson like we talked about?
I don't know if I'm going to full fade, but I'm definitely going to be a lot lower. Yeah, coming back, moving to the back takes any chance of leading and pretty much in that first stage completely out of the question. So that lowers his upside a ton, and 9,700 is still quite high for a price. So I'm guessing, let's see, so they're going to line up. So that's going to move. Who will that move up? I guess
just the row that he's in.
That's going to move Chase up to the second row.
Yes.
Because he would have been, So Chase will move to the outside of row 2.
Yeah.
So I think that makes him a better play. But he is expensive. So that goes back to the thought that I had earlier of how hard it is to build a team with Truex and Larson. How hard is it going to be to build a team with Elliott and Larson? I mean, it's going to be tough. Larson is still, that just upped him even more. I'm going to be very heavy on him. The run he's on, I just can't go away from him. I don't care that he's priced 1,100 more. My wife tells me every week that I should play him because I'm an idiot for not playing him. So she's obviously been gloating for the last 3 or 4 weeks, quite a bit.
Season.
So I'm just going to hop on the train, I guess.
Okay.
I have been playing him. We said if you go back to the first shows that we had to start this year, the very first one, we said Larson was going to have one of the best years of anybody, we thought, and he was going to have a big breakout season. And he's done even more than that, I think, showing that he's in some of the best equipment on the best team that in the series right now. And I think he's one of the
completely dominated
drivers.
Yep, by far. He's definitely come back and proven that he belongs. He's taken that car and he's just done great things with it. And I think he's really helped that whole entire team. The way they've built that team is just I love to see it. Seeing the veterans really help transition these younger guys into this team, and it's almost, I don't know, it has a feeling like a franchise, like like the Patriots or whatever, that kind of have that different feel. And every sport has a team like that or whatever, a couple teams like that, and that feels that way for NASCAR with these guys. And just bringing Larson on as Elliott got better, won the championship. Bowman has really come on, and then Byron as well is just. Larson just seems like he just fit right into that group, and it seems like they share information really well between teams, and they're just absolutely dominant right now. So for me, it's get as many of them in as possible. I just jammed in Larson and Elliott in a lineup. You can go Briscoe, Stenhouse, and Newman in there as well, and it's still left with 7,300. So it is possible, and there's none of those guys that I put in with them, Briscoe, Stenhouse, or Newman, am I against. Newman a little bit just because of the chalk factor, but I think we can kind of get away with that by putting Briscoe and Stenhouse with him, with Elliott and Larson, because that's going to be a tough way to build. And I don't think that's going to be the chalk build, is Larson and Elliott. I think Liz mentioned it in chat here, Larson with Bowman, if we go that route.
Yeah.
Like Larson and Elliott at the top leaves you 68.75 for your final 4 drivers. If you go down to Bowman and go Bowman Larson, that's 72.75. So that's like 400 per driver. Instead of having to go with maybe that last driver that you don't really like, you're now upgraded and you can go with someone a little bit better that you're more comfortable with. So that's probably going to be the chalk build, and I actually like going that route. I think you can differentiate by fading Newman now, by going Larson Bowman to start your build, or even if you want to throw in Kurt Busch. I won't be running Kurt Busch and Newman in the same lineup. That's kind of the way I'm looking. I don't think I'll full fade both of them, but won't have them together.
So another way you could go that I think will be a little bit different, because first of all, this 8K range is loaded with plays, top to bottom. Logano is, like you mentioned, and second tier dominator for me. But then all the other guys, Blaney he was pretty good in practice, right? You can check that while I'm talking about the rest of them. But the rest of that range, I'd mentioned those four are all great place differential plays. So I guess the problem, if you go two dominators at the very top, you can't really fit any of those in. So what are the chances of all four of those guys not Bush and Dillon? They all are on their best days top 10 cars. What are the odds one or two of them don't finish top 15? And with where they're starting, that might be enough. We need to look at the matrix on that one.
For sure. And you mentioned Blaney. We haven't even talked about him yet. He's starting 10th. He was 13th in opening practice on the one lap run. Now, I had it on mute because I was doing about 17 other things while I was watching it. So I wasn't sure, who was going for their mock qualifying runs when. Most of them were doing that at the end. So there's one lap runs, I'm not really, don't get me wrong, I'm not counting it out, but it's not at the top of my list. And I see that I don't have on the screen that I have shared here, I don't have my model across. I just want to stretch that across and see where the actual rankings for drivers are going to fall here, as long as I don't screw that up completely. Yeah, so put Elliott number one in the rankings, obviously Byron, but that's downgraded now for me. I'm going to have to manually change that for him. But you mentioned Blaney. What I really liked after only a 13th in that one lap run was 6th in the 10 lap run. So it looks like he's got a good long run car. I think he's a top 10 car today. Logano, I think, maybe take a little bit more ownership. I think you could pair them together is going to be a very contrarian way to go today. But if you just want to go with Blaney starting 10th, we're looking at, just for 5X, we're looking at about a 6th place finish. If we want 6X, he needs about a top 3 finish with, a few dominator points mixed in there. And if he leads any sizable amount of laps, let's just say 30 and 10 fast laps, that puts him kind of in that 7, 8X range with any kind of dominator points. So I really like him as a GPP pivot here down in this lower range. If you get Logano and Blaney who end up dominating, if Penske kind of shows up today and everyone is on those Hendrick cars, I think you will probably have a solo win and not be sharing with anyone if you go that route. Obviously, there's a lot of risk involved with the way Hendrick is running. I'm just thinking game theory type things here right now, talking about GPP pivots. If you're running 150 max, 20 max, 50 lineups, whatever, if I'm going single entry, I'm probably not going to go that route. But what's your thoughts on doing something like that and going completely off the board?
Yeah, you could do it in a few lineups. If you're playing 20, I'd maybe do that in 2 or 3. It's just going to be hard for the way Hendrick's running, and even they've looked this week in practice to not get there. But I think you can definitely pick or choose 1 or 2 of Logano or Blaney. I'm not super big on Keselowski, but he does have a little place differential built in if he is able to get into the top 5 or something. I think the interesting way that I'm now playing around with builds is if you go Larson as the main dominator and then play a little more place differential and play a couple of these 8K guys, you could make it Blaney and be a 2 dominator build still, count him as a dominator. But even these place differential guys, I think you can go, let's see. Yeah, so if you go Larson, Kurt Busch, and Blaney, that leaves you 7,000 left. So you can definitely still make that work if you play like one of the guys like Briscoe and Stenhouse. You're kind of still in quite the range that you can get something done there. In the mid 7s. And we've not really even talked about the 7s. They have some good plays as well. I don't know what we're going to do. I know we said we don't think Almirola will lead early, but he is the control guy, and he looked pretty good there. He's going to get out front at least at the initial part of the race and have a chance to get out front. So he's 7,700 he would have to dominate a portion of the race, not all of it, to get there at 7,700 and still finish top 10. I would think he would still have to finish.
Yeah,
But Chastain was very quick in practice, starting 19th. You can go there. Busher, we've liked him quite a bit as well, really all year.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot in that 7K range. So you can definitely go a lot of different ways. It just depends. I guess it's the rules that you make within your lineups when you build. Like I said, I don't want these lower end chalk guys. I don't want to combine them in my lineups. That's where if I'm going to have one, I'm going to fade the other one in that lineup and try and go with someone less owned. But in my three, I think Hendrick is going to be the go. I almost want to take one of my three max and go that contrarian build like I had talked about.
Yeah,
but we'll see when this is
like
when
that.
we're all done.
By the way,
right.
Switzerland is crushing Turkey so far, and the
Really?
goals are flying in soccer today. It's not one of those 1-0 in every game. So
they're scoring in action.
2-0 and 1-0 are in the first half, almost halftime.
I was watching the F1 race this morning, and usually I tune in about when I get up, it's about half over, and it's usually Lewis Hamilton just leading and boring, and I usually just put it on mute. This morning it was awesome. They were just getting towards, I don't know, about 9 laps left. Lewis Hamilton stayed out with his older tires, and Verstappen had new tires, and he was like 8 seconds behind. I'm like, yeah, no, it's over. And I started watching and watching. 5 became 4, and then 3 laps left. He was within 2 seconds, and then boom, with a lap left, he passed him. It was pretty cool. I like watching those races now. That it's a lot more balanced. So I wish they had some DFS for it, but like I said to someone this morning, you'd have freaking Lewis Hamilton at like 49,000 of the 50,000. It would be impossible to build lineups with F1. So back to NASCAR here. Definitely like Hendrick as my go-to. I'm going to bring up my betting site as well. I want to look at some outrights today and kind of see where the prices are at. I have yet to do that yet this week. Is there anyone that kind of stands out to you? Have you looked at any of that?
No, I'm pulling that up right now.
I know you have more options for betting in terms of like other than just the race winner, which is all I get. Unfortunately, I haven't signed up to that other site yet.
Larson plus 230. That's
I got him plus 200. I think Kyle Busch looks good at plus 750, and Logano at plus 1200. I always seem to be betting on Logano. He's always double digits. But I talked about his short flat dominance. Not even dominance because he's only got the one win, but 8 top fives. He's been so close on these short tracks, these short flat tracks. And I know this is 1.33 miles, but I still think Richmond and Phoenix are great comps just with the flat. I think that's more of a comp than the concrete. Myself this week, and Logano and Kyle Busch have been good on those tracks. And I just like those numbers for betting. I mean, Larson at plus 200. I mean, it's hard not to bet on him, but I want more than 2-1 when I'm betting on a NASCAR driver to win.
Right. Yeah, I'm not seeing stage betting right now.
Don't have any stages up.
That's
probably because of the same day qualifying. I'm trying to find that on a few sites, and they don't have it up yet either. And that's probably why I'm thinking.
Yeah. I was gonna think maybe that would be a place you could target Larson starting 5th. They might have a little bit bigger number on him than to win the race. And we still think he's got the upside to get out there, especially with in the full first stage. He can get up there. So if I see a number on that, if it's closer to 4-1 or something like that, maybe that's where we target Larson.
For sure. And then before we go, I wanted to talk a few prize picks plays that I'm looking at this week. Larson is tough here at 38.5. That's going to make him, he needs a top 2. So that one I probably wouldn't risk. If you want to go GPP, maybe the under, but I would probably just stay away from that Larson number. That's pretty high. I do like the number on some of these other guys. Kyle Busch, for instance, is a 6th place or better. He needs to hit the over. What other one here? We got Bowman. Bowman needs a 9th or better for him to hit his over, so I don't mind that. Joey Logano I like a little bit better just because I talk a lot about Joey Logano this race. So I definitely like him there as an over. And a 4th one that I kind of like, Kurt Busch at 26.5 makes sense. That's a 14th place or better for Kurt Busch. So I would take advantage of that one too. So that's one way you can run in a 4-way. You can do a flex play with those 4 plays. And if you get all 4 right, you get 5x your money. If you get 3 of 4 right, you still get 1.5x back. So you still get a gain on that. If you go power play, you need to get all 4 right, and you get 10x your money if you go that way. So normally what I do when I play Prize Picks here is I first play it like a cash game, and I'll take my 2 favorite plays. So let's just, for instance, say Kyle Busch and Logano. I've talked a lot about them. I like the over on both of those guys today. And if you go a power play on 2, you get 3 extra money if you get them right. So $20 turns into 60. If you go flex play, which I don't like with just 2 plays, just because you only get half your money back. And what's the point of getting half your money back? We're in this to win, right? So I like the power play for, let's just say, $20. And then with $10, I will add in a third play. I was just going to click someone here. Let's add in a third play of Bowman over. And this is where for $10, I don't mind going the power play, but you can also go the flex play, where if you get 3 right, you're still getting an extra $22.50. You more than double your money on that 3 play, and then you can go up to as many as 4. So if you go 4, like I showed you, you can go 4 right is 5x, and 3 of 4 is 1.5x. So there's a lot of options there, and really it just comes down to fantasy score, which is finish position points, and there's also some dominator in there. Keep that in mind in these dominator tracks. You get 0.01 points per laps led. It's not a whole lot, but it can make the difference of that over under in terms of these fantasy score lines that they have set up. So that's the way I'm looking at Prize Picks today. I'm going to check for any final questions here, and then we will take off. We'll start making some lineups. And if you guys got any questions whatsoever, like I said, Rotor Pros chat is going to be open for another, let's look like 10 days. So hit us up there, or head over to Patreon Slack chat, which is going to be open till August 1st as we transition over to Discord. And then obviously Discord, which I, by accident, got going yesterday. We've got over 100 people in there already. So if you want to get into the Discord, hit us up or hit me up. I'll handle that, Dane, because there was a little bit of early launch on the Discord. So I will handle that and showing everyone how to get in there. But hit me up in chat and I can help you guys out there. Or DFSR. I will be in there up until lock 2 if you guys got questions, betting, DFS, anything NASCAR, anything sports related, you guys. We're here to crush it for you. We've got a lot of videos, a lot of content coming out as we roll things over into July. We are super excited. I know a lot of you guys are too. We're getting a lot of DMs, so I really do appreciate the support. And again, reach out to us anytime. I'm also on Twitter. I got it down here below at Jager_bombs9. And Dane, what's your Twitter handle?
Mine is RedStag007.
That's awesome. Well, I don't see any more questions here, so fire those off in chat if you got them. And again, thanks a lot, and we will see you next week.
Good luck, everybody.